Chisme Cafe.
As you can tell, Morgan's really been working on her Spanish. She's been, a few months, she's been really working on it. So hopefully, in the near future, we can actually have a podcast in Spanish. The reason she really is putting the effort in to learn Spanish is to talk to my dad and my aunt. So hopefully by the time next year, she's able to actually have a full conversation with them. But leading that into what is the chisme for today, Morgan?
Okay, so I have 3 different that will lead into yours, and then we'll go into the main conversation, okay? So, we are kind of at the age where our friends have gotten married or are getting married. So when you think about that, like you have the bachelorette and bachelor party. And so last year in 2021, it was the average cost per person was $1,500 for a bachelorette party. Or wait, no, $1,000 last year. This year it's $1,500.
For a bachelor party?
For a bachelor and a bachelorette party. So when you think about it, like if you have your 10 friends, you all go, all spend $1,500. It's $15,000 that you're spending on this bachelor or bachelorette party. Which then brings me to the highest and lowest credit card debt per state. So you say Alaska has the highest at like $8,200. So they're carrying $8,200 month to month. Iowa is the lowest and it carries $4,700. So when you think about that, 20% interest is like probably pretty low, but pretty average. Yeah. So like Alaska, you're carrying over an extra $1,600 a month. In Iowa, you're carrying over an extra $940 a month just because you want to live outside your means. So then it brings me to Christmas presents. So obviously yesterday was Black Friday, Monday is Cyber Monday, and the average household spends $900 to $1,000. So when you think about that, like, do you really want to spend that much money to carry it over extra debt on your card to just have things that don't necessarily matter? And I mean, it goes for everyone's different. Like, I'm someone who's like quality over quantity. Like, I want experiences over things. So like, when probably thinking about it, I would rather spend like the $1,500 on a bachelorette party for an experience if it was something fun, something I've never done, over like $1,500 on Christmas presents that aren't useful, I guess. So like, I would rather have like very minimal or like very little things in my home just because like I don't really care what people think.
Which, you know, brings up the good point of like our lifestyle. Morgan and I are really on the verge, not verge, but the way we run our lives are, you know, we try to follow like the Dave Ramsey methods. You know, I don't follow it, we don't follow it completely, but he does have he does have some insight in the sense of, you know, don't buy something that is out of your living wage. I know we've heard stories where people who make a certain amount of money buy a car that is definitely worth more than what they make in a year. So that actually brings into my chisme. You know, speaking of vehicles, Ford recalls over 500,000 SUVs after 20 fires break out. And that's from CNN. So basically what's happening is Ford recalled all these vehicles in the United States, about 520,000 vehicles, which include the Bronco, Ford Escape.
The baby Bronco.
Yeah, this is the
sports Bronco.
But that being said, is the reason they're recalling it is that one of the ignition switches or
fuel line.
Yeah.
Right? Fuel line.
Okay, potentially cracks in the vehicle's fuel line could cause fires to break out under the hood. So you're talking, you know, these new vehicles are going $35,000 to $40,000.
If not more.
Exactly.
So like you're shelling out, like say you make $50,000 in a year. You're spending 90%. And that's like before any taxes or anything. You make $50,000. You're spending 40 grand of your 50 grand that you're not even going to get 50 grand of on a car that could start on fire. Just keep that in mind.
So, I'm not bashing Ford. Ford has made reliable vehicles in the past. But with this whole COVID situation where they're kind of going over producing vehicles over actually producing quality vehicles, it's something to think about, especially when a car purchase is one of the second largest purchase that you actually buy. So that being said, Ford is ranked 18th out of 24 for reliability. Out of 24 brand names, Ford is ranked 18th. So it's pretty high on the chart where it's unreliable. So once again, if you're going to spend that amount of money, it's just something to consider. My cousin Eduardo loves Toyotas. He'll die to be a Toyota fan. But Toyota does rank number one. So if you are looking for a vehicle, if you are going to spend that amount of money, Toyota, Lexus, BMW made the top 10. Don't know how, but
maybe they've turned like a page and they're like really focusing on like quality, continuous improvement, like.
Hopefully, it's in the past. BMW has been kind of a luxury, unreliable vehicle, but the top 5, you want a Honda, Mazda, BMW, Lexus, and Toyota. Which are out of those 5, 4 of them are Japanese vehicles. So it's just something to consider, right? If you're going to purchase a vehicle, or if you're going to end up purchasing something that's large like that, look at the reliability. How much is it going to cost you to maintain and operate this vehicle? And for, if you're looking at a Bronco or Ford Escape, you can always have the situation where it might start on fire. So I don't know if it's something to consider. I wouldn't want my personal vehicle to start on fire, but, it's something to consider on that end.
But I think also, people need to really, stop comparing themselves to people. I think social media has made it so much worse of, you see another 24-year-old, 25, 30-year-old with, a nice new car. They just bought a home. They have all of these things, which maybe they are paying for all of them in cash, and they have no, debt, no mortgage, no car debt, no credit card debt. But you also have to realize that a lot of that's not real. Comparing yourself to someone online and thinking that you need the best of the best, I think just has made it just so much worse of mental health even too, because you're sitting there comparing yourself to someone else, not knowing what they're actually going through, with finances especially. Yeah, so I personally would rather spend 15 grand on a reliable car that's not a 2023, but it's a reliable car. It's been maintained and it's gonna run me another 150, 200,000 miles, because I don't care. I'm not out here to be I have the best of the best and look at me. I'd rather just fly under the radar, I guess.
Yeah, and that's kind of just a big thing, social media makes it seem like things are very realistic, but the one thing Morgan and I always say is, you look at someone, for example, I think a Ford Raptor goes about 90 grand. I believe that's what it retails if you buy a brand new Ford Raptor. So anytime I see one on the road, the first thing
But that's a used one.
That's a new one is $90,000 to $110,000. So that being said, is you're looking at a vehicle that's 90 grand, right? That's over $1,000 car payment. And just to have a vehicle that is not gonna, turns heads in a situation, but how is your cost of living? Are you literally more in debt than you're actually making? It's just something that Morgan and I kind of look at. We see people, and the first thing that comes to mind is, well, either they have a lot of money, they make a lot of money, or they're in a lot of debt. So you have to make sure you understand that perspective.
Which we probably should say, we're not shaming anyone. It's just, this is how we approach, our things and our money and, what we want to do with it.
Yeah, it's just food for thought, because everybody can live their life how they want. But, it's just something to consider. just kind of looking at the barrier, and living your life however you want, but it's just something to think about when you're making a large purchase. The older you get, the more you start realizing, I think we've realized, is that materialistic things don't really bring a lot of joy, but
focusing on experiences and hanging around your friends, hanging out with your family, like making those memories is really like what's gonna matter.
Yeah.
Like no one's like probably, I don't know if anyone's been like on their deathbed being like, I'm so happy I spent all my money on things and didn't prioritize my friends, my family, and experiences of like things that bring you joy. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
But,
so, that's just discussing that.
So,
but we do want to bring up some points. I guess on my end is we did have to change rooms just because one of our friends did tell us it was a little echoey. So if you can notice, we're in a little different area.
so hopefully this is less echoey, but trial by error at this point.
Exactly. And then I do want to appreciate for everybody who did check out the stuff, check out the podcast, and checked out the YouTube video. We do appreciate that. We are working on a few things to make the podcast a little better. Hence why I researched and came prepared. Hopefully it's not as awkward. A lot of people are saying that I'm a little weird on the awkwardness, but definitely working on it.
And then what does Chisme Cafe mean?
Oh, yeah.
Because we need to educate.
Yeah, so chisme just means gossip. I know we had a couple of our listeners reach out and just say they didn't really know what chisme was, but it's just basically gossip. So we like to gossip and we like cafe, so that's why it's Chisme Cafe.
So going into transitioning back, so like we have very different styles of spending and how we approach money. So tell me a little bit about like what your thoughts are around money, and then I will go through mine and we'll just kind of like show and like people how like we can be very like different with money, but like be on the same kind of path with money and approach with money, and like still going like as a team with money.
Yeah, so my approach to it, and I mean it's something that I grew up with, it's just in the sense I think 3 to 4 times before I purchase something. I could be small, large scale, besides your stuff that you need to purchase to survive. So let's say I'm going to purchase, when we purchased our drone, I had to contemplate it. What's the value? What's the reward? What do I get out of it? What am I going to learn? So after I outweighed the cost to it, it brought, I could see it used as content, creating content, learning a new trade. It's always good to learn something new. So, some of those stuffs outweighed the actual cost. But I wouldn't say cheap, in senses of some things, but I definitely am cheap in clothing. Like I don't go out of the way to purchase the top of the line clothing because I don't really care for clothing. But as you can see, we have a few snowboards in the back. What value versus cost? There's things that we value more in sense of spending.
And that goes back to like experiences. Yeah. Like we can use our snowboards to create memories and create experiences and learn something new. Where like you are very like methodical about your money. Like I'm probably methodical about my money, but I will do all this research and be like on board, but yet still not spend the money. Yeah. Like I'm very much like I don't want to see my bank account ever go down, which is not the best trade to have. It's not like the best way to approach money, but I think with you do the research, you are very prepared, you weigh the costs, weigh the benefits, and if I do the same, we're both on the same page, we want to do it, we want to move forward on it, you'll be the one to pull the trigger. Where I'll just like sit here and be like, yeah, I really want it, and I'm never going to spend it. But I think like when we were dating, like you had paid off your student loans in like a year and a half, and I was
9 months, but that's because
different
you were
a year,
how much I work.
I was a year and a half, and I was very much like not on board. I wanted to just keep my loans, and I think this is a big point of contention for us. I was like, no, I'm not paying off my loans right away.
Yeah.
And like, I'm really glad that I did, but that was just also a different approach where like we were only dating, but I think that experience helped us like better align our thoughts and our approach with money going into marriage. Like, because we still don't have, like, we're like a year and a half in and we just haven't like gotten a joint bank account. Like, it's something that we'll do, but
it's on our to-do list. It's just that the way bank hours work, I just can't. The bank that I have isn't even in the town we live in, so I have to travel and close. And it's right now it's a bunch of excuses. I ain't gonna lie, but we'll get to it when we get to it. But that is definitely Morgan's viewpoint is accurate. I do believe. I think there's statistics on it. Is couples that have the same mindset on money have a happier relationship. And she is right. When it came to her student loans, there was a backlash of why am I going to pay these off? And then, as my viewpoint was always that there is an end goal, right? There is an end goal to always marry Morgan. But in a relationship, if you have debt, any debt always brings negativity into the relationship, and some people don't want to deal with that. So I looked at their approach as, if we're both on the same level playing field, this is going to be very beneficial to both of us.
And I think debt brings a lot of stress into the relationship, and like I am someone who's very stressed about money. Like I just said, I don't like to see my bank account go down, where like I would, and even when I had I was paying on my Subaru before when I had it, seeing my car payment go out a month, it was just really stressful for me. I was I feel like I'm losing money when it was something that I needed, which then I sold it a year later. But that's a different story. And
quick side note, make sure you really like the car that you purchased, because it's an expensive purchase. And, you're going to take a loss if you return it. So just quick side note.
We're going to have, the car experts talk about that, though.
But, that's kind of viewpoint Morgan. I will commit to it. If it is very expensive, if I've done the research and I can guarantee it, and I wouldn't say an ROI because it's, depending on the return, but I do believe that, an experience is definitely worth the value you can't put on. So I will full send it. If it's expensive, if you're talking large amounts, I will purchase it. Morgan probably won't, but I will, just because at the end of the day, I know what it's, at the end of the day, it's going to bring something to me, and definitely enjoyable. So that's something that we agree on, and as a couple, definitely discuss big purchases. Don't just full send something that is crazy, because it's just definitely not worth the argument later on, because you're just not going to win that one.
And then I think if you are contemplating spending money, where we always fall back to is, what are we learning from this? How are we growing our mind, and how are we stretching ourselves to continue to learn? And I think that's the biggest thing for me is what is this going to provide to myself? Because you go to your job every day, and maybe it's a job that you like, but maybe it's not stretching you, and you're not learning what you want to learn, or maybe you want to learn something else so you can continue to branch off and maybe start your own business. Just focus on spending money on the things that are going to invest in yourself, I guess. That's what I'm trying to say. But
yeah, and that's definitely something you kind of outweigh your costs and benefits out of it, and if you truly enjoy it and you see a benefit to it, definitely do it. But
so as a wrapping it up here, but pretty much know that we're not shaming anyone for how they approach their finances. This is just how we kind of do it. Continue to learn, continue to grow. I think that's something kind of new, within the last couple of years that we've been trying to really focus on, and then just be mindful of like where you want to go, where you want to be in 3 to 5 years, and how this purchase is going to help you or hinder you to get there.
Yeah, and the cheese net points today were, just
and spend within your means.
Yeah, spend within your means. Bachelorette party, stuff like that is expensive. Is it worth the time? Is it something to consider? But the big key point is if you have a Ford, just make sure it doesn't start on fire because no one wants a burnt up vehicle.
Stay safe. Like, subscribe, and share with your friends.
Yeah, and then subscribe to our Bare Bones Media page or Bare Bones Media on TikTok, Bare Bones Media
on Instagram,
and I believe that's in our Bare Bones Media YouTube page.
Yeah.
So subscribe, like, help other people hear us out. We might not be the most exciting people in the world, but we think we're pretty funny. So subscribe, and thanks for listening.